CEE Brown in your face.
Have you heard of Everything at Once?
Do you know about Everything at Once?
It's internationally known.
Aliens listen to it.
It's the best ever.
If there's something you're looking for in the 814, or feeling a little bored and think there ain't no more, check out Everything at Once and allow it to be your source. It's that raw podcast that's always showing support, highlighting the scene. No need to take I-90 to Peep or 79 to see how it be. Interviewing your locals with mindsets that are global, innovators and creators on every single upload. So much going on in the EPA.
Incredible content.
Everything at Once will keep you up to date.
Amazing guests.
What you doing? Come through and hang with Tony and Dave.
Community driven.
Bringing everything at once from around the way. Everything at once from around the way. Hey.
Please listen. We love you. Everything at Once.
Everything at Once. We're so pumped, so amped up.
We're so ready. We got what you need. We know why you're here. You wanted to tune into another episode of Everything at Once.
Let me tell you something, brother. This is the best podcast
In Erie.
In Erie, brother.
Probably Pennsylvania. Quite possibly the world. The aliens think it's the best in the universe. I'm not sure.
Brother, it's the best in this universe or any universe you can find.
All those alternate universes as well. But before we get into the show, we first want to thank all of our Patreon producers. Brian G, Josh W, Ian D, Nick G, and Sadie M.
Patreon is an awesome way to support this show and say thank you to us. You can become a Patreon supporter by clicking the link below and choosing to be an intern, assistant, or producer level supporter.
That's right. For a mere $5, you can be an intern and really help us grow and expand and continue to bring you that incredible content that you all know, love, and deserve. We now want to also shout out all the businesses that sponsored this episode. These local businesses get the Everything at Once stamp of approval and are critical members of the Everything at Once community. We couldn't do without them. First, we want to thank Cauldron and Thorne.
Cauldron and Thorne is the world's largest witchcraft store. They're huge. They're gigantic. And they offer a conglomerate of crystals, books, ceremonial supplies, incense, herbs, oracle and tarot cards, and self-care items.
It's a real grocery store for the soul.
Right there.
Located just west of the Colony Plaza on West 8th Street.
They're open 7 days a week. Or 24 hours online, and 24 hours online at cauldronandthorne.com.
That's right. We also want to thank one of our new sponsors, Solid State Construction. Solid State takes pride in all home remodeling projects. Solid State specializes in bathroom remodeling, kitchen renovations, window and door installation, custom design work, and more, including painting, flooring, drywall, siding, and decks. Get a free quote by calling Nick at 814-397-7854. Solid people, solid product, Solid State Construction. Got a problem with your car? Tommy's Automotive can take care of it. That's right. Tommy's Automotive can take care of brakes, exhaust, fluid changes, spark plugs, and all other maintenance needs.
Tommy's Automotive also does fluid film undercoating. Book your appointment today. Call Tommy at 814-384-8088.
And finally, we would like to thank Details by Pheonix.
Has your car been looking like death lately? Well, help it rise from the ashes with Details by Pheonix. They will have your car looking brand new. Those automatic car washes never do a good job, so save yourself the headache and the hassle and bring your car to Details by Pheonix.
Schedule your car detail with Pheonix by calling 814-981-0862. Dave, are you ready?
I was born ready.
Viewers, are you ready?
You better be ready.
We have another incredible guest for you here, Lauren from Ashton Ferns.
The premier, best, most amazing, incredible bonsai designer in this area and maybe any area ever.
Quite possibly the world.
Maybe the world.
Maybe the universe.
We have intergalactic listeners. They'd be able to vouch for that.
They're going to have to listen to this show, let you know, find out. We hope you listen to and enjoy what we've recorded for you.
And without further ado,
Lauren from Ashton Ferns. you mentioned that there's like a big difference between a novice bonsai grower or bonsai artist compared to like a master artist. How would I as like a layman be able to differentiate like the quality of the bonsai?
So you can generally tell the quality generally because of the style, the shaping, things like that. So like beginning bonsais are basically just stunting the plant and doing some trim work to kind of emphasize the plant. But as you get further into more of a master, you do a lot more adaptation. So you do a lot more wire wrapping. There's tricks where you can cut into the tree, like cut little pie slices out of the tree. You can actually bend them and form them, and really just mastering the art of shaping it into something completely different from your initial form. So a lot of times you'll see them take, like a very large bonsai, it's almost like a whole shrub. And then through wire wrapping, through bending, things like that, all of a sudden it's completely shaped in the opposite directions. It has turns, it has twists, and really just the detail of the plant and how they've emphasized the look and the structure of the plant is how you can kind of tell.
Cool. And are there certain types of trees that would be considered a bonsai, or can I bonsai any tree?
You can really bonsai anything. You can even bonsai, things like succulents. As long as it has bark, you can basically bonsai it. So I know with me, I bonsai about, I'd say, 15 to 20 different types, whether it's, in the junipers, because obviously there's, millions of different kinds of junipers. So doing junipers, doing different kinds of pines, azaleas, aurelias, mings, and mugo pines and stuff like that. So really, you can bonsai almost anything.
But you do mostly, so we have junipers around here, or is it like a certain Japanese juniper that you'd want, or does it matter? Whatever juniper you're feeling.
So you can kind of do any kind of juniper. I mainly do something called a Pheonix nano juniper. It's also called a dwarf Japanese garden juniper. But I really like them because they already have like some really nice natural forms and shapes. Their branches all have cool little bends and, creaks and things like that in them. And their needles are really tiny and they're soft. So generally when you bonsai, you want to kind of find smaller leaf or smaller needle type of trees, because then it just looks more dwarf. It looks a little bit finer, things like that. So I really like the Pheonix nano juniper. It's definitely the top seller and the most fun to work with. So
cool. So that kind of makes sense. I mean, I wouldn't really want like a bonsai tree with giant maple leaves on it or something like that. So you kind of aim for the smaller leaves, so it kind of fits the tree. Interesting. So you got like a million trees that are bonsaiing, and then you got your pots. And where does your material come from? Like as far as soil, are you composting? Are you getting it from somewhere?
So I make my own soil blends. So I work with a local greenhouse, and they give me wholesale large quantities of soil. So I use a mixture of their soil plus more of a wood chippy, almost, touch of sand in it, a nice kind of thicker chunked soil. And then I mix them both together, add some organic fertilizer to it, and use that. And depending on the plant, whether it's like more of a tropical bonsai, like the Aurelia, or if it's more of a hardier perennial version like the juniper, I can alter those ratios. So obviously with like the tropical, I'd add more of the kind of like potting mix, things like that. But I do a little bit of composting on the side that I usually make, and kind of add in certain things that kind of help the soil mixture go with the plant.
Cool.
So.
And do you ever get like attached to the trees?
Yes, it's extremely difficult to sell some of the pieces, because sometimes you just make that one tree, and when you find that perfect pot that matches it, you're like, this is the best thing I've ever created. This is beautiful. Like, I'm going to keep this. It goes with everything I have. And then I usually end up, the ones I like really love, I'll keep for a while until I've made like another one that's even better than that one. And then I can move it and sell it. Okay. So yeah, it's definitely hard, let alone, when I'm working events and you have, I'll have like 3 to 4 tables stocked full of plants, whether it be the tropicals, the terrariums, or the bonsais, and you see that one piece and you're kind of hoping in the back of your mind, like, please don't sell. Please don't sell. And it's always the first piece that moves off the table. But it's nice, though, because you see, like, the person it's going to, or they tell you, like, it's for a gift for their mom or a gift for their husband. And seeing that, like, sparkle in their eye when they found that one plant, and it's like, okay, it's going to a good home. Like, you know, it's going to be well cared for. And it feels good knowing that, like, your pieces are loved and cherished and are in someone's home someplace. So
I think you're a better salesperson than I would be. I'd think if I was that attached to something, you know, at these events, I'd be like, you don't want that one.
Yeah, you don't want
Look how
this
much
one.
better this one is over here. Don't, like, just knock it off the table.
yeah.
Because I'm sure I'd imagine you get pretty attached. Like, how old are your bonsais when they're sold?
So it all depends what type I'm selling. Usually the junipers are around anywhere from 3 to 5 years old. They're usually more toward, 4 or 5 years old. The azaleas, things like that, are a couple years older. So I usually get them in. I have a grower down south. So it's a family-owned grower. So I get them from them. Because with the junipers, if you get them around our climate zone, like if I get them from a local grower, they're going to go into hibernation over wintertime because that's what they're used to growing into. Usually fall, they'll start to go dormant, they'll hibernate, and you have to kind of keep them outside. So I get them from the south so that way people can keep them indoors all year round. They don't need to worry about them hibernating, things like that. So usually when I get them in, they're about, I'd say 3 to 4 years old, and then I keep them for a while. So usually by the time I get rid of them, they're about 4 or 5 years old.
Interesting. So yeah, I mean, that attachment definitely, I would get attached. I feel like spending 4 or 5 years with anything, whether it's a plant or a table or, whatever it is, I'm going to grow some sort of fondness to it. So I can imagine it's kind of difficult when you have one that's super cool and you want to keep it for a while.
Yeah. So some pieces you'll see just like in my house, just stockpiled, and it's like, okay, I can keep you for a few months before I get rid of you, and then just kind of slowly just cycle everything through.
That I feel like that's fitting for that type of art form, because that is a very like Buddhist, like very Zen, like not attaching yourself to the object, maybe for a little bit, but like the ability to just let go.
Yeah.
is a very good combination with what you're doing.
Yeah. So I definitely try to keep, when I grow tropicals, I'll try to keep one of each that I bring in. Like right now I have the pink princess philodendron that's extremely popular. I'll get some rare plants in, and I'll try to keep one for myself and then move the rest. And then once they're all gone, it's kind of like, okay, this last one needs to go. So it's kind of cool to cycle things through so that way my house interior is always changing with all these different pieces and stuff. But it's definitely not easy getting rid of your favorite pieces.
Yeah. And I feel like the level of care that goes into each piece probably, I mean, I am not good at keeping plants alive personally. I've had a number of bonsai trees, and I think I've had a couple of them that have lived for a while, but none have been able to sustain life. I really do well with plants that thrive on neglect.
Like cacti.
Like cactuses and succulents. Yeah, I'll even kill those sometimes. But caring for it and nurturing it and watering it and loving it and giving it all that good positive energy must be very rewarding in its own way for you.
It's definitely nice. And like I know, like all plant people, even the experts, everyone kills something. So don't think just because you killed a plant, like you're like, that's it, I have a black thumb. It's like, no, sometimes it depends on where you get it from.
What if I killed several plants?
He's killed every plant. I have
plants.
too.
And and the ones that I haven't killed, our studio manager Gideon has killed.
Things are so bad around here that we had to get a tapestry of greenery.
Yeah, exactly. We couldn't keep any plants alive down here. Basement's probably not ideal growing space for most plants.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I know if you get plants from local box office stores, and I'm not, going to diss all of them, but big box office stores and things like that, like they're getting them in and they're not supposed to kind of sustain themselves. So a lot of times you'll see like the soil inside, it's mainly all coco coir, which has no nutrients. It doesn't really, help the plant sustain and all, but it's extremely cheap. So they'll put in 3/4 coca coir, or there's no nutrients in it, and the plants really aren't meant to live unless you instantly take them home, repot them, and put brand new soil in them. A lot of times they're going to die within a couple months. So it's not just you. Like, I know I've seen bonsais in different grocery stores and things like that, and most of the time they're not even bonsais. They're just little junipers in little manufactured pots. So they're not, trimmed, they're not wire wrapped, they're just small junipers in a small pot. So they're not trained to live in those pots. They're not trained to live in different conditions. And after a couple watering, the dirt turns into cement, and it's so hard that, there's no way that the plant can thrive.
Interesting. Some of them have lived a while, but most of them have died relatively quickly. Because I always wanted to be like a bonsai person, or to have a bonsai tree that lives for a long time and hangs out in my house that I'm friends with, and because I like plants, I'm just not great at keeping them alive. Yeah. And I guess if I'm set up for failure from the gate without knowing, then it makes sense that some of them would move on to their next phase of their existence.
The longest I ever kept anything alive was actually one of our previous guests, Bella's Bloom, Kelly, wonderful, she's awesome, but she gave us some flowers. And if she didn't give us that little pack of nutrients to go with it, they would have died a quick death.
Yeah.
But those things lasted a while. I was very proud of myself for ripping open a bag of nutrients that I did not compile and putting it in the mason jar. And it was a good feeling,
Right. It's the small victories. And do you have you also teach classes about this, right?
Yeah.
So you'll get hands-on and show people how maybe even me or Dave could possibly keep one of these alive for a long time.
Yeah, and I make sure with my junipers and the things I sell, I completely put them through the ringer before I sell them. So I overwater them, I underwater them, I throw them in a dark corner, throw in bright lights, so they are used to anything.
Sturdy.
Yeah, because I know a lot of my clients, they want to be plant people and they're afraid to spend the money on something and have something die. So with the classes, it actually started as care classes because the movies make it seem like bonsais you have to trim every single day.
Oh, yeah.
You have to do all this work. And really, if you trim that bonsai every day, you would not have a bonsai left. You generally have to trim, especially junipers, maybe once a year because they grow so slow. But yeah, with the classes, they're really popular in the area, and they're generally, $45 to do a class, which is a lot cheaper than what other people do them. And you get a juniper, you get the 100% sustainable pot, and then you get my soil blend, plus you get decorative gravel. So I teach you start to finish how to make one, and I go around to every single person at every single step and show you exactly how to make it. I help you design it, so that way you actually have a good piece to take home with, and you actually learn something. So I always hated classes where you're sitting there and the instructor's just kind of yelling out orders, and next you're 3 steps behind, and all of a sudden you're just fending for yourself. So I make sure to go to every single person in every single step and make sure they're actually learning the art. So.
And how many people are in a class usually?
I usually do anywhere from around 6 to 36 people, depending on.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So I just taught a class in Pittsburgh that had around 31 people. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So they go really well, and it's nice because I do private classes. I did someone's birthday, for some.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, a kid wanted to do a bonsai class, so I did a private class for them at one of my stores, and it all kind of depends on the size of the venue and what the event is, depending on how many people I usually get in.
Right. That's very exciting, and I appreciate that you go through it very carefully and curate the class with such care. And I'm sure they're probably getting one of these unkillable, battle-tested bonsai trees too. So
yeah,
they're ending up with a really awesome experience for $45. That's a sweet deal.
That's a slamming deal.
Yeah.
And you do them all around here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I do them all over Erie County. I do them in Meadville and in Pittsburgh right now, and I'm hoping to extend that into Edinburgh and some other places. I usually kind of go just up and down 79 and teach as many classes as I can, up and down the highway. So
you also do terrariums. So when I think of a terrarium, I think of the pictures on Facebook or on social media of like the giant jar with like the cork on it that just like lives forever and is self-sustaining? Is that like what we're talking about?
I have a few pieces like that in my personal collection, but I generally either do open terrariums or closed terrariums, and usually just have like a wood lid on them. But I do different types of terrariums. I do anything from like cacti and succulent terrariums to tropicals to bonsai terrariums and like air ferns, things like that, depending on like what I have in stock. And it's cool because obviously like the glass jars are all sustainable. They're all curated from local stores. And then I also find little accessories. So I find some like antique little statues or figures to find it. You know, I found this
cool little knickknacks.
Yeah, I found this antique little like, you know, Volkswagen Bug the other day. I'm going to make one in. So it's kind of cool to be able to find the stuff to use that like a lot of people wouldn't buy them. So I'll find like all these cool little pieces and kind of like, turn them into art. And it makes it like a little bit challenging because I can't just buy like 1,000 different, you know, figures. It's like I have to go and find them. But then each time I find it, it's okay, I have this statue. What am I going to do with it? And it makes me be a little more creative and actually make pieces more one of a kind.
So you're like half horticulturist, half American picker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been really into the picking, so especially, you know, when I go to like different estate sales, if I know the company who's hosting it, you know, and I'm in line at like 6:30 in the morning to try to get into a place that has cool mid-century pottery and stuff like that. So it's definitely hard being a picker, but it's so much fun because each time I leave my house, you just go treasure hunting. You just never know what you're gonna find.
It's really cool too because I like the aspect. Well, I'm sure you have a vision or what you're going for, but sometimes I feel like just with what you're describing, a lot of it has to be inspired in the moment or by the piece or by whatever you find, rather than having this like idea of what you're going to create. You just go out and like with an open mind and with a positive disposition and find cool things like, you know what, I can turn this into art.
Yeah. Because a lot of times I'll have like a plant, you know, I'm like, okay, I need to find a cool, I just got these, you know, Alocotias zebrenazen, which are like zebra Alocotias. The stems are like white and black
So
striped.
what's an Alocotias?
Alocotia is a type of tropical plant.
Okay.
So you've probably seen like Alocotia polys around. They have like the big black leaves that are kind of dragon looking. There's a whole bunch of different varieties. So I try to get like different plants that no one else sells in, especially because I'm friends with local greenhouses. So I don't want there to be, you know, competition between us. So I'll get these cool plants and I'm like, okay, I need to find like the coolest vase to put these in. So I'll go out and find the vases and find the pottery for it. Or I'm out and I find like the coolest piece of mid-century antique pot. And it's just the rarest, funkiest piece of pottery I've ever seen. Then it's the opposite way. It's like, okay, I got to find the perfect plant to fit into this. So it's constantly just changing, evolving, and like constantly keeping on my toes because I can't, like other growers just have the same standard pot in, and then it's okay, I just got to fill these. It's like constantly a creative battle to find pieces that are more one of a kind and cooler than the last batch, and then just constantly keep expanding the business to make them as cool and funky and one of a kind as I possibly can.
And clearly you have like a good eye for it, or you wouldn't still be doing this and you wouldn't be going through hundreds of pots a month. That's crazy.
Yeah, luckily I was trained at a young age on pottery. I have an aunt who is a huge collector. And between her and my grandmother, you know, they always knew pottery. You know, they taught me everything I knew. So, like, at a young age, I could tell what an antique pot was and seeing different things in their homes and being like, oh, I really like that piece of pottery. I really like that glassware. But I always hated having stuff in my own home where it's just sitting there. Like, yeah, it's nice to have a cool Campbell's vase or something like that. Yeah, it looks beautiful on your mantle, but there's only so much you can have where it's doesn't have a purpose and a use. So, like, even before I started the business, just, you know, I'd find cool pieces that I love, but it's like, okay, I can't buy this unless there's a purpose or use for it. So then I started putting plants in them, so there was a reason for me to, like, have these cool pieces. And then it just kind of took off into a business because I love plants and pottery, and I just had way too much of it. So there's only so much you can fit in a barn. So.
And you started this during at 2021, still during COVID. So do you think that was like an advantage to you or a disadvantage for starting a business?
It was definitely harder. I kind of started the business in 2020, and then officially I did like a test run 2020. I was working as a project manager, and with the pandemic, I lost my job. So I didn't know what to do. Erie's not known for having a great job market, and I was really afraid of not being able to find something, especially during the pandemic. No one was hiring. Everyone was letting people go. So I'm like, what am I going to do? I have bills. I have, things that need paid off. So there is a farmer's market in Northeast, and I knew someone who had a booth down there, and she's like, well, why don't you, if you're interested, it doesn't cost that much money. Why don't you come down, set up a booth, see what happens? I'm like, okay. I was going to treat it almost like a yard sale. We're going to get rid of some plants that I'm not in love with anymore. We'll just put them in something cool, say something nice. And then it just kind of took off. And then 2021, I'm like, okay, I have a good feeling about this, and then got the LLC, got all the paperwork done, and then started to fully expand it. And now, I wholesale bonsais to Stan's Greenhouse, which is, they're
huge. That's a huge deal.
And they are the nicest people I have ever met. It's a family-owned business. Josh, the owner, always gives me, business advice and, talks me through stuff and helps me out. And, he places, orders that really help, get through some months. And, it's just great working with them. So
awesome. And your story is so similar to a lot of the other people that we've had in here that have like some sort of passion that's not really what they're doing for their living, or to support themselves or whatever. And that passion just continues to grow and continues to change and evolve until it is, what they're doing full time.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful and amazing that people can continue, just see one road or see a path or a direction and just keep walking that road till eventually something happens. You know what I mean? A break happens, whatever occurs, that you're able to monetize it and be able to sell a product that you can be super proud of, and it's something that you've been interested in through, it sounds like, most of your life.
Yeah. I started, I think the first plant I grew, I was in kindergarten. It was like a little Earth Day project. Here's a pack of marigold seeds, see if you can grow them. Mine ended up being like a bush, Everyone else had these tiny little 3-inch plants, and mine was this giant shrub. So it's definitely, not gonna lie, the scariest thing I've ever done was starting my own business. Every small business owner will say that. It's terrifying, because you don't know what's going to happen. You can have one break that makes you, or something could happen and all of a sudden everything goes downhill, and it's scary, let alone to do it full time. Because when I first started, I would have my full-time, corporate office job working 9 to 5, and then I was doing this on the side. But the way the job market is here, you can't depend on a lot of jobs. You just don't know, with the economy up here, when it's going to end.
Right.
So not knowing kind of where your future is financially was scary. And I was like, we're just going to keep pushing this. And then eventually I'm like, I think I can do this, and we're going to I told myself I would give myself a year or two, see if I could do this full time. And if I can, keep going. And if not, I would go back to work. And then now it's just crazy that I ever doubted myself. So
yeah, there's definitely those moments where things get scary and you're not sure what's going to happen. And being able to roll with the punches and move through the setbacks, because I'm sure there were plenty getting started and figuring everything out, that you're able to just keep persevering. If one door closes, another door always opens. And having the ability to see the other open doors is just such a gift that I feel like a lot of people maybe don't recognize, or maybe don't see at the time that it's happening, that there is another door or there is another option out there.
Or just, the anxieties brought upon people by life just makes a lot of people really short-sighted to the point where it's like, well, I'd like to do this, or I have a real interest in that, but I just don't have the time, or it's not safe enough, of a route to go, and then you just kind of end up miserable.
Yeah. The one thing that's helped, because I know, especially because I work events, events used to be my main income, with my business. You go set for a whole weekend and you plan, okay, I should make this amount of money with the amount of people coming, and all of a sudden it rains or it's colder. People just aren't buying stuff occasionally, and you're like, oh, this is it. I can't do this. I didn't make any money.
How will I ever financially recover? That meme.
But being able to work with all the other local vendors, working events and everything, and finding all those other small businesses and the other vendors that are out there struggling like you, and having, there's a whole community of vendors. And it's really cool because especially when I first started out, I had no idea what I was doing. I worked an event, had no idea how to even set up my pop-up tent. I came in there a hot mess and was just kind of struggling to get through and figure out, how this works and what to do. And all the other vendors come over. I'm like, okay, you're doing a good job. Don't worry. Make sure you do this. If this event doesn't go well, don't stress yourself out. It's just how it goes, but your next event will be good. And they just kind of really help motivate you and let you know, like, everyone faces hard times. Your business isn't going to be perfect. You're not going to be pulling in those good numbers every single month. You're going to have a bad month occasionally, even though last year that month was a good month for you. And just kind of not give up and just realize, like, okay, just because this event didn't go well or, this deal didn't go through, it doesn't mean that that's how your business is going to go. Like, if you just keep pushing yourself and keep forcing yourself to keep doing it and stay motivated, like, it's going to turn out fine.
Right.
I think you touched on something else that Tony and I hear over and over again with the entrepreneurs that we have on. Erie might not have the best economy or like the job market from like a corporate sense, but like over and over again, that business to business, peer to peer, like people helping each other out to grow as their own like singular entities is just so prevalent in this community. Like, there's just so much of people lending a hand to help see a vision or become sustainable.
Yeah, and I think that's really cool too that we do have that here. And the idea of us being like a primarily small business city, I don't know if that's ever really possible, but like in my head, that dream or that ideal sounds really, really appealing. You know what I mean?
And I think it's going to happen, just knowing all the small business, like, it's exactly like you said, like, the community here is so amazing. The amount of support just from people, from businesses, from other entrepreneurs. Like, I've never seen a community support one another as much as Erie does. Like, it's such a beautiful thing, even though, like, we might not have everything, like, we have the people with the love and the passion to help one another out, and it is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the feast and famine mentality is over, hopefully, as far as business goes here. And I'd love to see more and more small businesses and this be a real, like, small business entrepreneurial type city. Mm-hmm. And I see new things popping up all the time, and it's just incredible. Like, there's all of our guests really who have just like gone out on a limb and went to try something and received tons of support from the community, from like, and not just the business community, but like the people community around here. People buy your product. People are willing to invest their dollars into something that is made here, I think at a much higher rate than something that I could pick up at Walmart or Target or any of the other big box stores that are out there.
Yeah, the customers in Erie are just, they're the nicest people I've ever met. And they support local businesses like I've never seen a city support local businesses. People going out of their way to, instead of just ordering it on Amazon or, like you said, going to Walmart, they're searching out those local businesses. They're calling them, they're contacting them. And the amount of people in Erie that are supporting small businesses is just amazing. I've never seen another city support each other and support small businesses like the customers up here.
And right. it just like kind of grows from that too, because we've talked with people before as well about, not just the businesses, like the type of like music and art scene that we have in Erie too. Like for a city or town or whatever you want to call it of this size, it's really pretty crazy. Like, how eclectic it is and how much there is to be had here. I guess I kind of noticed it before, but one of the coolest things about doing this podcast since August is like really like seeing more and more that just how alive and well the city is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I like a lot what you brought up about the different art scene around here and all the musicians and stuff like that. I mean, people show up to local shows and local events for local bands, and I feel like in the past, I've not seen that so much because I've lived in Erie my whole life. I've watched the music scene rise and fall and decline and rise again and all of that stuff. And going out and doing like the photography work that I've been doing at the local venues, because I feel like it has a really big value to the music scene here and to attract other bigger people, like nationally touring bands or bands that are from outside the Erie area to our area to see like, oh my God, look at this local band and how many people are showing up. If they're all here for that, if we came there, we would pack the place. We would sell the place out. They'd come out, they'd support us, they'd be a part of it. And it's part of like the, my goal with like some of the stuff that I'm doing outside as Everything at Once Studios and not just Everything at Once podcast or everything, whatever we're calling ourselves these days,
We don't need to get into the legalese right now.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is that it's just really great to see that kind of support. And I think that what you're saying is correct. This is a very unique place. And I think it also goes to show to the quality of the product that people are producing here, whether they're an entrepreneur or a musician or any sort of artist, that people are willing to buy it, and people are willing to come out and support it because it's fucking good.
Yeah. Oh, some of the art I've seen around here done by local artists and potters and musicians, it's some of the best I've ever seen. And I've traveled, far and wide, and you could tell that Erie is turning over a new leaf, and you can just feel that it's the community that's making Erie grow, and everyone's supporting, all the artists, and it's a beautiful thing. Like I know, I work with the Dolls at 4 Point on State Street.
They're great.
Oh, they're amazing. I love their vintage clothing.
Their clothes is awesome. I think that's where I actually met you for the first time.
Yeah, at the gallery night.
At the gallery night, yeah.
But there's a lot of stores like them that are helping out local artists. They'll have gallery nights, or they'll have different, boutique nights, things like that. And they're getting local artists into their stores, and they're having them set up and take over their store and promote their art. And like you said, Tipsy Bean, places like that are hanging up local artists' work. And it's really cool to see how everyone's, even the main businesses are trying to get more people out there. They're trying to show off more work and more art and more music, and it's a really nice thing.
It's audience sharing, you know what I mean, or customer base sharing. Because like when I invite somebody to come on the show, or when any business invites an artist or whoever to have like a guest spot at whatever the venue is, you're getting your audience there that already supports you, and you're bringing in another audience, and they kind of commingle and like, hey, this stuff is cool. No, this stuff is cool too. So now we have more people and more eyeballs and more like products and things that are available to people. Because also there is like the old adage of like, nothing goes on here. And I feel like the people that say anymore, since we've had this podcast and I've been able to see all the people and all the things that are going on, it's not that nothing is going on here, it's that you don't know about all the awesome stuff that's going on here.
I feel like there's always stuff going on up here. It's like every other day there's a new event, there's a new, art show. There's just constantly stuff going on, even during winter time. There's always activity. There's always cool things to do around here. And I feel like beforehand, because I went to college up here, and then I went and moved back to Pittsburgh, and then came back. And I feel like beforehand, like there wasn't as much stuff, and now there's stuff going on every other week. There's new businesses getting put in, new, music, and it's just constantly changing.
Right.
It's constantly,
I mean, you got gallery nights, you got all sorts of different bands playing all the time. There's all sorts of different classes, people like yourself that are offering you how to learn to do something new, whether that's bonsai or pottery or some form of art. There's all these different wine
and paint
things that are going on, and all of these small local breweries that are hosting events for people like you that want to come teach a class or want to do whatever it is that they're doing that people are interested in, people want to learn. And I feel like there's such a hunger here too for like that kind of entertainment, because for so long, like especially in college, like Erie was a party to, but back then it was like, what do you do here? You go out and you drink every single night till you're blacked out drunk and ride the bus home.
But I mean, I mean, that'll happen from time to time.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that for any of our younger viewers or any of the people that like to go out and party and have a good time, that's not a great thing. But I also feel like the diversification of interests is so important because now we can have not only just a thriving bar scene, but a thriving art scene and a thriving culture scene and a thriving education scene. You know what I mean?
I know that it was pre-internet, or if it was internet times, it was like, you know, you couldn't just pull out your phone and fact check. But I remember growing up, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember growing up, you know, like the claim to fame, the area that the kids would always talk about, or people would always talk about, was they had the most bars per like square mile in the whole country. You know, or like, you know, they'd say like there's a church and a bar on every corner, and that's all you can do here is like go get drunk and then go to church on Sunday morning and absolve your sins, you know, which you can still do. You can still do it, but there's just a lot more. I mean, last year there was that like ice skating down in Perry Square, and I was just like, what is this, New York City? Like,
yeah, I mean, Dave Tamulonis from the Erie Downtown Partnership said they hosted something like 160 events over the course of last year.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, and they're planning to do even more this year, and that's just one like facet of people hosting events, you know, not to mention all the events that are going on at all the other places around here outside of that little area that the Downtown Partnership does work with.
Well, you can definitely tell like the culture has grown so much. You know, beforehand people would just, from other cities, they would come up just to go to the beach, go to Presque Isle. That's the only thing they would do. They come and go to Presque Isle for the weekend with the kids, and that'd be it. And now I hear and see more and more people are coming up for the events. They're coming up for the music, for the classes, for the art galleries, and more people are starting to come up for the culture, not just to go to Presque Isle for the weekend for a nice, you know, easy family vacation. More and more are coming in from, you know, Pittsburgh and Buffalo and Ohio just to come into our city because, you know, the culture is growing so much. And it's cool to kind of see it shift to another, you know,
a newer dimension, a better, well,
an evolution
of the city. And there's so much like change going on too. You know, I feel like there's so much money being dumped into so many different facets that are going to make downtown really a vibrant, beautiful metropolis. You know, like all the money that's going into the Children's Museum, the 2 new big buildings that they're making down there. You know, Radius Co-work is doing so much work for all of these wonderful entrepreneurs that need a space and are just starting and want to get things going. And you know, the opportunity and the potential is really there for the people that want to go out and take it and have the ambition and the desire and the discipline to do something that they're passionate about. So that's right. Go out there and do it, everybody.
Yeah.
This is like our Rocky moment. I feel like we need to make a montage out of this.
We will someday. I'll watch through, because I feel like I've had this speech on so many episodes.
Yeah, on so many episodes. We got, I don't know, where's some good stairs in Erie? We got to run up like the courthouse stairs, all 7 of them, you know?
Let me put on better shoes and I'll run up those stairs.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And we'll get a bunch of our guests to come with us.
Yeah, we can all run it. So, speaking of events and all of that, how often do you have your classes?
So depending on what the schedule looks like, I usually have a few classes a month. I know in April, I was doing classes every single week, but in June, I should have some new classes at Yori Wine Cellars in Northeast because they're a wonderful local winery. Their wine is amazing, and the owners are so incredibly nice. So we'll be having a class there, a class at the Dollhouse, and probably a few other places up here. Then, you know, more classes in Corey and Meadville and places like that, and really kind of hitting this area hard with the classes. So
awesome.
Amazing. How do people get in touch with you? How do people find you out there and order a bonsai tree or take a class?
So they can easily, you know, go on my Facebook. It's just, you know, facebook.com, and it's under Ashton Ferns NE for Northeast. And then I also have an Etsy, and that is etsy.com, the Ashton Ferns. So either one of those sources they can go to. It's usually easier with Facebook to find all the classes. Usually we have, through the classes, either people pay me or they play the location that I'm doing it at. So we try to stay away from, you know, online ticket buying, because a lot of times they take a fee, and
Yeah.
I don't want to raise prices on my classes. So usually we kind of do private selling of tickets. So Facebook's definitely an easy way to get a hold of me. You know, I have email, which is just, the ashtonferns@gmail.com.
We'll put all this stuff in the description
Yeah.
too of the show so that people can just scroll down and look at it. It'll be in the Facebook posts. Find her on Facebook. Check out the Etsy.
Yep.
Do all the cool things. Hit the like, hit the follow, hit the subscribe for Ashton Fern. Hit all of our likes
Yep.
and subscribes and follows too, because
it.
we love you.
Yeah. The nice thing is with everyone who's local, and sometimes if I'm traveling, I'll do free local delivery other places, but I do all local free delivery for everyone because I'm always out pottery shopping anyway. So, I'm not going to charge people for delivery if I'm already out driving. So, I do free local delivery. I do custom orders for people, just let me know colors and plants, and I send them all the pictures so they can pick out something that's personal, unique to them. So I definitely make it fun and more, one of a kind for the person. So it's not just, if you go on my Etsy and you're like, oh, I like this red pot, but I want a different shade of red. It's like you can easily contact me and be like, hey, what other colors you got? I have literally a full barn of pottery. Ooh. So I have plenty to go around to choose from. So
Beautiful.
I like it. I'm making an executive decision. I don't do it rarely. I do it rarely. I don't do it rarely. I do it all the fucking time.
You better run this past. You better run this past Gideon first.
Okay, Gideon, make sure this is okay. This is the executive decision. When Everything at Once Studios, as we continue to grow, we're gonna have you do the green art design for us.
Yeah, we need a bonsai tree for in here.
yeah, I'll make
Yeah.
you guys something really cool. So
Beautiful.
Executive
That will
decision.
stay alive.
yes, I'll even pop in on occasion, check up on the little thing. So
Amazing.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a pleasure. We've had a great time hanging out. Thank you, everybody on the internet who tuned in today to this show. You guys are amazing too, and we love you. Peace.
bye.
Peace.